learn about him something new. Okay, let's start our interview. And I would love to start with the very beginning of your life, with your childhood, your youth, and your early 20s, I can say it. So where did you learn and where did you burn?
Okay. Yeah. So I want to start with that. I'm just a regular guy, nothing special. So I was born and raised in Tashkent, and as any child, I went to a public school. So I started my education at a school in Chelanzar district. From my very young age, I showed interest in math, so that contributed to my interest to this field in later stages of my life, and also developed interest in information technologies in general. So at the same time, when I started learning math, I got involved in English lessons. So this is when I started to learn about the language, and I also watched some TV shows. So if you remember from early 90s, there used to be a TV show run on First Channel, Uzbek First Channel. It's called Family Album USA. They still have it on YouTube, so you can watch it. But that TV show was very special for me because it was very easy to watch it, and the language was easy to understand. The dialogues and the speech that they use in that TV show was very easy. It was targeted for foreigners, and so that was one of the factors that helped me.
Yeah, involved you in
English
and math.
Yeah, in math, actually, it's my math. I cannot say when I exactly developed interest, but I think before I even went to school, I had some books and magazines for children that had something to do with math, that showed numbers, puzzles, and other mathematical problems in general. So I attempt to solve them, even if I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, that I can tell that those events, they kind of triggered the whole sequence. Yeah.
Like a butterfly effect.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, and where did you study after school, and how did you find that you even want to work in IT industry, be an engineer, not a mathematic, not a scientist, but engineer? How did you find it?
Yeah. So it was at later stage of my life. I actually decided to go after software engineering, but before that, I went to Uzbek Turkish high school. So again, if we go back to 90s, there were a set of schools established by Turkish, I believe, and Uzbek governments, and they were all across Uzbekistan, and so I attended one of those schools, and they were very special schools because so I had to go there and stay for 5 days and come back home for weekend, and so those experiences helped me concentrate on studies, so I didn't have to disrupt my attention. So also teachers at that high school were also helpful, and they were answering my questions, and they were helping me by giving any resources like books, some like tapes so I can listen to them, listen to like English stories, and they were really helpful. And once, unfortunately, those schools got closed, and I moved to different school after that. And so I progressed through 3 years of studies at academic lyceum. And once that stage is over, I got accepted to Westminster University in Tashkent. Even if I was studying there for the first year of studies, I wasn't determined. So I wasn't sure what subject I'll be following, what would be my major. At one point, I thought maybe I'll go with business administration, or maybe I'd try economics. But I eventually focused on business computing. That was the name of the major that was available at that time. So once I finished 4 years of studies, and then I got interest in pursuing the software engineering. Before that, I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't determined. I haven't even started internship of any kind. It all started once I've graduated from Westminster University, and so that concludes my teenage life. And then in my early 20s, I got accepted at a Rochester Institute of Technology in United States. So I applied for a U.S. government-sponsored fellowship. It's called Fulbright Foreign Student Fellowship, and I was one of the 4 people who actually was selected for this scholarship out of hundreds of people. And so I went to that Rochester Institute of Technology in upstate New York. So this is where I actually pursued the Master's of Science in Computer Science degree. Once I graduated from the university, I came back to Uzbekistan and started working at Coscom, also known as UCell. Yeah. So my study in the U.S. was it wasn't only studies, but I also got involved in social life of American families,
like
students. So I had a special connection with local people, meaning I had my local American mother, I would say. Yeah. One thing I have to mention that they were very interested in learning about foreigners, so that's why they run like a scheme called host family scheme, right? So they come to universities and they approach to international students, and they try to invite them to their families. So you can be involved in their families, learn about the culture. Of course, academic studies is the core part of the scholarship, but involvement in communities, cultural exchange, and sharing your knowledge is another major component. So what I've learned in the U.S. was about local, as I said, local communities. One of them was Amish community in Pennsylvania. So those are type of people who came to U.S. but they deny any civilization, like civil advancement. So they stick to their primitive style of life, and they even don't drive cars, or they don't even use electricity. they just follow basic style of life. Yeah, it was very interesting to learn about them. And another thing I learned about American life is was related to academic studies. So I went to a Naval Academy in Annapolis, in state of Maryland. So this is where they actually prepare, train people who serve in the Navy. So I learned about like how they establish this scheme, how they prepare Navy people who want to serve in the Navy, and this is also a very interesting experience for me. So I actually met a person there who spoke, local American person who spoke fluently in my native language, and they had very intense interest in Central Asia, in Uzbekistan in general, and with all these bright and beautiful experiences, I came back to Uzbekistan and shared this knowledge with my other colleagues. And so once I started working at UCell, I maintained my connection with the U.S. For example, once I came at the very next year, I came back to Uzbekistan. I returned to Las Vegas to attend a scientific conference to defend my master's thesis. So I actually went extra mile and decided to write a research paper based on my master's thesis, and that paper got accepted in scientific conference, and so I traveled there and attended and presented my paper, my topic, in front of hundreds of people, and so I continued working at UCell, and at one point in my life, I learned about a scholarship called Chivning. So Chivning is a type of scholarship, but this time it was financed by UK government. And I knew about it, and I wanted to apply and learn and actually experience life in the UK. So I applied for it, and I got accepted.
So you find out two scholarship, and how did you do that? And it was difficult to won actual scholarship. How did you find it, and how it won? How it was going? Did you prepare for it, or you were too smart?
No, I think, as I said, I'm a just regular guy. As I said in the beginning, anyone could have been in my shoes. Yeah, in my place. So I think I did some additional research about this scholarship, and I spoke to people who actually applied for it. So I learned from their experience. I learned what made their application successful, and what pitfalls to avoid. So I think doing homework like this helps a lot, not only in applying for scholarship or applying for a university, but also in professional life. When you apply for a job, so you can speak to people who work at your dream company, to learn about the company and about the culture. I think this technique pays off very well. it's very simple, but it's doable, and so I think I took the right steps, and so I got selected for Chevening scholarship in 2015, and so I traveled to London, and I went to King's College London for a year, because master's degrees in the United Kingdom, it runs for a year versus 2 years in the US. So once I finished my studies in the United Kingdom, I came back to Uzbekistan again to continue my career. And I have to say, my career wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a straight line of success, but it had many ups and downs. And also, I didn't stay. I won in Uzbekistan alone to actually, throughout my career, I wanted to experience how software developers work in other countries, and in what projects they work in, and what are their aspirations, and all these open questions were very essential for me. So and I moved to Poland at one point in my life to actually see how the software development market work in Europe. And so I worked a company called Luxoft, and they hired me as a contractor with UBS. So UBS is one of the major investment banks in Europe, and so I worked in projects of UBS as a contractor. And so this is when I started to learn about finance in general, and how software engineering, how software helps solve problems in finance. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me, because previously I had very limited view about software engineering in general. I thought software engineering is only limited to education. It's not very well expanded.
In life.
Yeah. And when I saw it actually helps.
Yeah, in actual engineering process.
It
especially
actually
in finance.
Yeah.
Because it's a banking, it's mobile apps, right? For different systems, it's difficult.
Yeah. It's it reaches to many other aspects of our life besides education, in finance, in traveling, and in many other fields. It was also my first time to work with team who were across the globe, because previously my team was only limited to one time zone, right? But at Luxoft in Poland, our team were spread across the globe, so they were based in multiple time zones, and so I had to use different techniques, different ways of solving approaches to solve problems with time zones.
Yeah.
So sometimes I had to make sacrifice, come to work early, and maybe leave work late to have as much overlap as possible, right? Because multiple teams work in multiple time zones, and to make a useful, to make best use of this time, you want to make some sacrifices, of course.
And
Yeah.
actually, about nationality of
Mhm.
your team, there is also can be Indian or somewhere in Europe. Is it difficult to work with multinational company and common team? Yeah, team.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there are some challenges with working in multinational company like UBS. So obviously, multinational means there are multiple teams, multiple people involved in the same team. So they are spread across the globe. And that also means you work with people from multiple countries, and that means that you have to be maybe culturally tolerant. You may need to increase your tolerance. There are some habits or work culture which you may have not seen before, and so I think we have to be accepting of those differences and learn from them. Actually, I learned many things, improved my work ethic while working with team members who are from different nations, and yeah, and it's all about assimilation, I think, how you get along with them, and so it's maybe challenging at first, but over time you get used to it and just be like receptive of these changes, and yeah, it's just I don't know, like I feel
like you are
yeah.
the citizen of the world now.
Yeah,
Not only
I can tell that.
Uzbekistan,
Yeah, I've worked with team members from different parts of the world, from US, from UK, from India, and from China, and yeah, and I try to get the best from those worlds, and that's how we grow, because we want to grow professionally and personally also. And I think exposing yourself in such environment is very essential for our growth. So yeah.
So you worked in different teams, companies, and you actually learned a lot at universities, but you said that your engineer experience started with this Poland company, and how do you choose what you have to learn next in this case? Because you already had lots of knowledges in technical stuff, but not an actual experience, as you said. So how did you choose what to learn next, or was it useful, all your degrees, for your actual work?
I think one of the important things in our field is to learn constantly, because our field is different than law or medicine, for example, that where you just learn set of knowledge and you're done and you use it throughout your career. But in engineering, in software engineering specifically, knowledge becomes obsolete very fast. So there are new software frameworks come along, and new languages emerge, and they get renewed. Their new versions are released, and they bring whole new features when the new versions come. So that was my so I was receptive. I was willing to learn, and I think that helped me a lot, because when I was involved in this field, so I accepted this risk, because risk of my knowledge becoming old very fast. So I said to myself, okay, I'm willing to take on this challenge, and keep myself involved, keep myself relevant in this field by learning constantly. So yeah, and so when going to the next stage of my career, this knowledge helped, because so you know what's the next best thing in the field, and what are the emerging technologies in the field. So so you speak to people, and you speak to other colleagues of yours, to see, hey, what are you learning about? Tell me about your current involvement in like educating yourself. What are you educating yourself with right now? What courses are you taking? So yeah, and so I think this constant learning, I think, helped me explore other career opportunities. When I was working in Poland, for example, I maintained my connection with my school, King's College London, and so this is when I said that I want to come back to UK and try myself in different fields. So I was working in financial field in Poland, but when I came to UK, I switched to travel industry. So this is again willingness to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to explore how software engineering works in travel industry, because there are multiple resources, multiple like facilities available, like Expedia or Skyscanner, and where we book our airline tickets or hotels, right? And so I wanted to understand how software engineering solves those problems, because obviously there are problems when you book your airline tickets. Something goes wrong, and when you come to your hotel, you find someone already lives in your room. So probably they double booked the room or something. And so yeah, and when I moved to the UK, I decided to explore travel industry. But in 2020, as as we are aware, travel industry was hit hard by emerging pandemic, and so that put brake on my exploration of travel industry, and I decided to switch back to finance. And while being while I was in the UK, I applied for Deutsche Bank, and I got offered a job in London office of Deutsche Bank.
London office.
Yeah, and so yeah, I managed to make this switch from travel industry to finance, back to finance, and yeah, and this is how I've been. This actually summarizes my experience in a nutshell. Yeah, since then I've been working in London, and yeah, I'm still involved in financial industry, and yeah.
Cool. So do you like the finance industry, or you gonna switch it in the year or next years, couple of next years? What's your future plans? How do you see your future? Because you have lots of experience, you learned a lot, you have degrees. What's next? What's your plans for future?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, I really like financial industry. I think there are very interesting problems to solve. So I travel to Uzbekistan frequently. I try to come here every 4 to 5 months, and every time I come and see here, what I see is there are major advancements going on here, both in financial industry as well as in IT in general. So one of the things that I experienced here was the emergence of digital banks. So Anor Bank, I think, is one of them, and there are many others. And yeah, and I think that follows the trend happening in Europe. So there are many other challenger banks in Europe, like Monzo and Revolut, and I see the same trend is happening here, which is a very very good to see. And yeah, and so I'd like to maybe learn more about other aspects of financial industry, such as how banking works in general, how retail banking like this works in general, and yeah, we'll see how far I can go.
Maybe take another degree.
Yeah, actually, I thought about going for PhD, and I got accepted for PhD at University of Virginia. But I decided not to go because once you involve yourself in advanced degrees such as a PhD, then that means that you will dedicate yourself in academia. So once you graduate from PhD, expectation is that you remain in academia and you continue your academic life by
As a
doing
scientist.
research as a professor at university,
Professor.
or running a research lab in one of the companies, for example. But I wanted to stay in industry and solve business problems, but not academic problems. I wanted to solve business problems, so I thought to myself, maybe I will not go to PhD. And yeah.
You're very interesting, because most of us only can dream
Yeah.
about the PhD. But, I don't know, I don't want.
Yeah, and also I think PhD takes major chunk of your life. It's usually at least 5 years. That's how long it runs in the US, and that's a major commitment, time commitment, and also emotional commitment,
You have
because
to choose between work and education, right?
you will be only involved with your studies while doing PhD. You will be doing some work for your professor, such as grading their term papers, running their classes, some of their classes, and or helping their research by running some experiments. But majority of your time will be spent in your research topic. So you will choose a research topic that matches you with the faculty of the university. This is where the matchmaking happens. So having this match is very important. That's how you got into PhD degree in general. Having this match between you and the faculty, or with the professor, right? And you will be spending most of your life with that professor for at least 5 years. So that's a major commitment, as I said. So I thought there are other people who can do better than me in PhD, and yeah.
You just choose to leave it to them.
Yeah, I at first I said I probably take a year that I will make a decision to think about it, and they said fine. And the next year they again asked me if I'm coming back, and this is when I said I gave my final answer of not going to PhD.
Okay, but let's go back from heaven to earth.
Okay.
For our students in Uzbekistan, what kind of tips you can give to them, the people, the boys and girls who just start their career or just start their education? What kind of tips you can give to them to make a cool career?
Now, I think one of the tips I can give is to do an internship while they are studying, because this is the thing that I haven't done and I regret a little bit. I haven't done any type of internship, but when I was working for full time, I realized that it's actually a very important part of our academic or professional life. And so what I can tell students is to approach any companies in your local town and try to apply for an internship, maybe summer internship or any internship after you graduate from university or while you are studying at university, or apply for internship abroad. Internship actually, I think it prepares us students for a professional life, educates us with work ethic, because having a high level of work ethic is important. Discipline is important in professional life, and also another tip I can give is related to networking. This is another thing that I underperformed when I was a student. I didn't have many connections. Maybe it was related to my personality, but I encourage students to be open and make connections, and this is when I think you explore new opportunities. I read somewhere that job opportunities are sometimes communicated through networks, not through career websites.
Yeah. We don't have in Uzbekistan problems with Tanish village. Yeah.
But but when I say networking, I meant it in a positive sense.
Yeah, in a positive, of course.
Like professional networking.
White Tanish village, we can call it like this.
Yeah, being transparent. And
Yes. And what kind of tips do you want to give to yourself in the student's age? So, do you have any regrets, like you said about internship? What do you want? Did you want to change something or not? Mostly.
I think I would say becoming involved in professional life at earlier stage of my life I should have done something before I graduated the university, not after. And maybe traveling more, because traveling is something where we get to know about other cultures, and also and this is where we make new friends. Probably I would say to travel more to my younger self. I traveled when I was in my early 20s, but I think I could have done more, obviously. Yeah.
But you were lazy.
Yeah,
laziness or something else?
You mean?
I mean, you could do, but you didn't. Why? Because it was laziness, or because it was some kind of maybe financial stuff?
No, I think it was related to my personality. I think.
Introvert.
I wasn't very open for change before. So traveling means a lot of change. Change in your perspective, change in your outlook in life, and change in your level of tolerance. So, this is something that I think my personality prevented, but at some point I managed to overcome that and be more open, and
even give an interview.
Probably many years ago that would create like a major stress level raise stress levels in me to be in front of a camera and speak. But now I think it's just part of my life that I'm okay with.
It's cool. It's mean you improving as a person.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving your experience. It was very, I guess, it will be very useful for our students. And I thank you. This was Nodir Siddikov. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.